Ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday night. I'm happy that you guys joined us instead of watching the Cowboys and Giants game, which pretty much everyone else is watching right now. But if you're here to listen to us bitch about this terrible Warner Brothers movie, then we're here once again on a Monday night, and I'm joined with my loyal guest. We'll start off with Mr. Rob Model. How you doing today, Rob?
Oh, pretty good. The Titans won yesterday, so I'm pretty good mood. And I have a job. I'm employed, so I'm not on the street yet. So that's always good. But we are here to talk about a pretty terrible movie. So there's always that.
Yep. And then, of course, our other good buddy all the way from Texas, Mr. Rick Aragon. I want to let you know that there's actually a Whataburger that's opening up about 15 minutes away from me here in Georgia. So it's spreading. What do you think about
Yes,
that?
yes. Now, whenever I go see the Atlanta baseball team, which cannot be named because, of course, there'll be scandal. I'll, my bestie and I will feel right at home.
Well, I hope some get something out of it. I'm gonna say this right now. There's only the sign that says that a Whataburger is coming. I don't know if they're like building infrastructure or if they're just gonna like kick out like the Payless shoes and move it over there. So I don't know what this thing's gonna look like yet, but it is coming eventually. So
Well, no, that's great news. That's great news. I'm very happy for you. You are finally going to be blessed with one of the greatest burgers of all time.
oh yeah, better be, or else I'm gonna fly to El Paso and throw that burger in your face for being a big giant waste of time.
You don't no, don't throw it. I'll gladly take it. You don't have to throw it. You can toss it to me, and I'll gladly eat it.
All right, go a quick little shout out to all of our guys joining us in the chat tonight. Duke Nukem, who's joining us with some German Nazi talk. I'm not sure what he's saying here, but I think he's saying hello, guys. Have a good night. So I'm glad that you're here with us again. Then, of course, Spencer, who's joining us in the chat. I can only assume that Spencer is a Bears fan because I don't know what other team would say hashtag Bears down. So, I mean, if you are a Bears fan, then bless your soul because I don't know what to tell you for the last 30 years about your team. But, I mean, hey, there's worse teams out there, the Raiders. And apparently there's a Whataburger opening up in Arizona right now, too. So, yeah, there's Whataburgers all over the place. You guys got some kind of world domination plan you're not telling us about?
Well, Texas should spread throughout the whole nation. I do agree with that. But when I was in Arizona, I actually was hunting down Pollo Loco. That was the big thing for me. I was obsessed with
Yeah,
Pollo
that's good.
Loco.
That's
Yes, it
good stuff.
is.
I've only been to Los Angeles one time, Southern California one time, but I ate El Pollo Loco, and it was like okay, and it was like oh hey, Breaking Bad. That's where that thing comes from.
Pollos
Los
Hermanos.
Yeah, right.
Pollos Hermanos. Which really, I don't know if that makes any sense. I'd have to see what they actually have. The Chicken Brothers. I think that's what it would translate to.
Right. No, but
But
it's the same kind of like
okay,
healthy,
yeah,
like you know.
it's healthy, but it's still good. But I mean, it's not as good as the film with your generation's Gene Kelly. So this will be fun.
I was just going to say this too, as someone who's born and raised in Southern California. If you were coming to Southern California for the first time ever and wanted Mexican food, there's not a single person in that city or that state will ever tell you to go to El Pollo Loco for your first try. I think Spencer can back me up on that one. There's a lot of much better places that you can go to that are, I guess, chains. But yeah, El Pollo Loco, I mean, it's okay. Like if you're drunk and like that's the only thing open at 3 a.m. But yeah, I wouldn't make it my first choice.
Yeah, but
To be fair,
you've got to remember. You got to remember. I'm the waspiest Mexican in the world. So
and I was 19, and I didn't even love Mexican food at the time. I mean, I love it a whole lot more now that I've actually experienced, good shit. But yeah, no, I mean, I was 19, so I didn't know anything. But yeah, like 2009 or something, 2008.
It is almost like saying, "Yeah, I went to LA for the first time and I had Taco Bell." It's like,
Really, dude?
exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get this show rolling because we're talking about one of the only two movies left this year that Warner Brothers could afford to promote. But their own words is that they can only afford to promote this film and Black Adam for the rest of the year. This is the reason why Shazam got bumped off of the late year schedule and off to 2023 because we need to promote Don't Worry Darling, which is the feminist thriller which going into this one, this is one of the films I can remember where there's been absolutely no talk about the actual film itself and all the drama has been behind the scenes. So I think Rob, you kind of like started this one like a couple of months back when you ported the whole thing about Shia LaBeouf, because it seems like the second that story came out, this whole thing's just been snowballing ever since. So to kind of back up here, Olivia Wilde has directed this film. She did not write it. Well, we're going to clarify that one later on, but she did direct this movie. And there was an interview she did with Variety where she claimed that she had to fire Shia LaBeouf because, well, she was doing it for her co-star's safety, in her own words. That was what she was alluding to there. So Shia then came back and said, no, actually, you didn't fire me. I left the project. And then a video mysteriously ended up on the internet about Olivia Wilde begging Shia LaBeouf to come back to the project, which kind of knocks down her narrative that she had no choice but to fire him. And then things just go from there. And there's reports that she had a feud with Florence Pugh, who's the star of this movie. They haven't spoken to each other in months. They're not. She's refusing to promote her own movie because she's upset with a number of issues, including the fact that Olivia Wilde is sleeping with her co-star Henry Styles, and maybe that led to a breakup with Jason Sudeikis and her getting served child custody papers live at CinemaCon. So now that we're hearing things about they had a shouting match while they were on set, and just all these things going on, you're thinking to yourself, is there anything about the movie? Is there any talk about how good the film is? Well, film came out and the reviews were not so good, and it seems to be that a lot of people had issues with, I guess, the big twist, the M. Night Shyamalan style twist that we got towards the end, which kind of broke the entire movie up to that point. Even though I'll say that it wasn't terribly exciting going into this film. I'll just say that one. But before we get started here, what was kind of your thoughts about this movie going into it? Did you feel anything about the movie itself, or were you more interested in things that were going on behind the scenes away from the actual film?
Well, I mean, I like movies and I like productions and learning about how movies are made and getting a behind the scenes look. So, I mean, I'm always kind of interested in this stuff. And I like directors. I like learning about the making of movies. And I was very skeptical about this movie from the start because I don't think Olivia Wilde's a very good director. I didn't think Booksmart was very good. It was okay. But I thought she got a lot of praise that she didn't really deserve. And, you know, the Hollywood press is sort of really excited to have a successful female director do well. And it just seemed like there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes that were more interesting than the movie itself. So I had a pretty low expectations going in with like a lot of movies this year, and it didn't quite even meet that. So I think a lot of the controversy is very telling that Olivia Wilde can't run a production. I think that she's very irresponsible with how she behaves, especially with Harry Styles. Especially with the Me Too movement. So there's supposed to be all this criticism of the Hollywood higher ups taking advantage of younger women, and here she's openly sleeping with the lead in her own movie. So I think she's a complete hypocrite. I think she lacks a lot of artistic vision because of what she she has put on screen to this point, and I think it shows in the movie when you really break it down.
Well, hold on. Before Rick answers that question, are you actually suggesting that the chick who was BFS with Harvey Weinstein portrays bad judgment when it comes to her actions behind the camera?
Well, I mean, I didn't really know any of that until it sort of got pointed out by you, actually. So I've kind of been ignorant of that fact all along because I had no reason to dislike Olivia Wilde. She's always been an okay actress, but has seemingly gotten by on other things apparently. So that is what it is.
What are your thoughts on the build up to this film, especially your boy Gene Kelly there, Rick?
Oh, your generation's Gene Kelly. Yes,
apparently.
I went into this with a pretty open mind. All the scandals and the controversy, it didn't affect my view because I didn't think much about it. And apparently, for the record, just to point out that Florence Pugh still insists that the reason she's not doing much promotion is that she's too wrapped up in Dune Part 2, sequel to one of the greatest films of all time. But I had to throw that in there. But I went into it. I was actually intrigued because it seemed like it could be an interesting sci-fi film. I didn't think it was going to be like overly symbolic of anything. But all the controversies and the scandals and all these people shipping each other left, right, and center. Um, I said, I want to put that separate from whether this is a good film, what is on the screen. I want to judge what's on the screen, not whether a woman is taking a man 10 years her junior to her bed and is leaving a man that she's been with for 9 years for this kid.
I was just about to think that too. It's like, no, come on, she has to be more than 10 years. Then that just hit me. It's like, oh yeah, she's not even 40 yet. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I
she's
thought
38.
she was
She's
way
38.
old.
He's 28.
Yeah, okay. I thought she was way older. Well, I'll just put it this way. Spencer wants to know if the scene with Pew getting smushed in the glass was a metaphor. Patience. We will talk about the problems with this film coming up. So let's just go ahead and start with the main story for this film. We open up and it's a film that's seemingly set in the 1950s, kind of a small cul-de-sac type neighborhood where everyone's wearing bright, vibrant colors, and then everyone wakes up in the morning. The wives fix their husbands their breakfast. They take their food out. They get into their car. They all go outside. They all wave to their husbands as they go out to their jobs. The jobs at the Victory Project, which you can't talk about. It's like Fight Club. You can't mention anything about the jobs that you do because it's classified and top secret. But that's pretty much the lives of these women. They go out there, they fix food for their husband, and then some of them do ballet class, and then I guess that's about it because I didn't really see anything else that they were doing in this little universe that they created. But everything seems to be going well. There seems to be a little utopia of sorts, but things start happening, and as I like to call them, they start becoming little glitches in the matrix of this whole story, because one of the women in this universe just starts kind of flipping out for no apparent reason, saying that we shouldn't be here, or that you're lying to us, and just kind of like weirdo talk when you're at a dinner party or people are having a good time and things of that nature. So you start to realize slowly but surely that this world isn't exactly the way that they propped it up to be. And that's the basic premise in the start of this film. Now, let me ask you guys this, because this film is getting a lot of praise about its costume design and how they stylized everything from the 1950s. When I saw the film, especially the very opening of the movie, especially when it plays to sorry, I read this comment as I was wanting, like, it's like, no.
Yeah. 38.
Yeah, to try flipping those numbers to Nuke.
Harry Styles is 28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I was saying, people were praising the costume design, saying, "Oh, it really looked like the 1950s." When I saw the first few minutes of the movie, it's like they're not really putting that much effort into making this feel like this is the 1950s. And then, of course, as we get later on, when we get to the actual twist in the movie, it's like, okay, I kind of saw that coming right out of the gate, because you guys really didn't put much effort to make people think that this is actually a 1950s neighborhood. Did you guys feel the same way? What did you guys at least think of the style of the film before we talk about anything story-wise? I'll start with Rob.
Yeah, I actually, here we go. I liked it. I liked the costume design. It actually reminded me of Edward Scissorhands. It reminded me of a pastiche of the 1950s, or early 1960s, suburbia, Palm Springs, these pastel colors. I actually thought the production design and costume design, the costume supply was actually pretty stylish and effective in creating a basis for this world. I don't think it goes much past that, but I like some of the early visual, like the choreography of the cars, moving together, little things like that. I mean, yeah. There was effort put into the visual design, at least in the first part of this movie. So I enjoyed that. But there isn't much past that, so I liked it. It's just a little empty,
Well, I agree with Rob, is that I think they did do a good job with the costuming and the sets. The problems I had first was the soundtrack. It was like, you're drowning me in 50s music, and I'm going, calm down. Okay, you don't need to play practically every song from 1951 to 59 to tell me that you're supposed to be in the 1950s. I think the big clue, though, is that if it's supposed to be the 1950s, it's a remarkably progressive community that is fully integrated. And I kept thinking, wow, you've got African Americans. I think you have an Indian American there as well. And I'm going, for the 1950s, this seems a very curious community that is
Yeah.
far more open and integrated than the 50s should be considered, because I often say that minus the legalized segregation, I actually like the 1950s as a decade. So that's just me.
Yeah, if you go back and use, like I say, Compton as an example of what Compton was in the 1950s, that would probably dispel a lot of the narratives about how this whole community was set up. But like I said, the way that it was presented to me, like I'm not saying that it was necessarily bad, but it never really truly felt like it was a movie that was set like in the 1950s. They were doing a lot of like base level, like set design. It's like, oh, here's an old school TV and like an old school radio, and it's like your only vibe that this is like the 1950s is essentially like the homes that these people are living in. But outside of that, it didn't really feel it didn't feel like it played up to the era outside of that one little thing. And probably it was because it was pigeonholed by its own storyline, which we'll get to here in a second.
It seemed a little exaggerated at times. Like I don't think that like when they're at the mall that they're supposed to have women literally modeling the vacuum cleaner in like lingerie and all that. It just seemed a little excessive.
Yeah. Don't mind this comment right here. Spencer's having Korean War flashbacks right now. So
He didn't like Ike. That's his trouble. He didn't like Ike.
But and obviously the reason why they picked this time period, the 1950s, is because it's long been a progressive feminist narrative that the 1950s were absolutely an awful time for women, because that was the time when women were expected to be at home and take care of the kids and cook dinner, and in their minds it's women being subservient to men. And there's a very specific reason why they chose this decade in that storyline, because that does come in play with the ending of this film, which I know Rob got very upset up, and I commented about it on Twitter a little bit beforehand. But before we get to that point, let's kind of jump back into it. I always made the joke that if you ever want to see how far our society has fallen, listen to what was considered music in the 1950s and listen to what we have now, and you think to yourself, oh yeah, well maybe we did make a couple of mistakes along the way, because you're talking about a time where people were listening to Patsy Cline, and that was like the female hero, and now we're doing Megan Thee Stallion twerking on She-Hulk series. So like maybe some mistakes were made, if you remember Black Ops 2. So yeah, this whole life that they're building in this community is a place called Victory, California, and you have this whole mysterious thing about the quote unquote Victory Project. Now, this is where we start the poles in the story start falling apart right away, because as the men just seemingly like leave town and go to the restricted area where the women are not allowed to go, because we're told that it's not safe for them to be there. But it's never explained, okay, well, why is it safe for the men to go out to this area but not the women? They don't really play up to what exactly the threat is. Is it an alien threat? Is it like a nuclear threat? Like, we don't really know like any details. And early on, there's a lot of scenes where you see like the women are in the kitchen and then the place just starts shaking, like for no reason. So they think to yourself, oh, that's just the men out there working on whatever it is they're working on. It's like, are they doing like nuclear tests? Are they doing like bomb simulations? There was a little tease that maybe they were building something underground, like weapons and stuff like that. That absolutely went nowhere. No one really knows what's going on. And the problem with a film like this is that when you're doing a mystery, your mystery is only as good as the reveal. Like, you can keep people hooked until the very end when you let people know exactly what's going on. But if you don't sell the reveal, the whole movie's going to fall apart. And I don't think they did a good job of building up to what the ultimate reveal of this film was going to be at all. Did you guys feel the same way?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, there's a couple different moments when I was like, oh, hey, are they going to go in this really interesting direction? Nope. And there's a couple of times where I felt like that, where it's like, you could have taken this Twilight Zone idea, this Twilight Zone episode idea, and spun it into something creative or interesting or dynamic. And it absolutely goes the most harebrained, jumping the shark, sort of dumbest execution possible for Olivia Wilde to make this movie. And it was just like, they could have been Nazis. They could have been, hey, everything's paradisical and wonderful, but they're really in Argentina and it's the Nazis who escaped and whatever. And so it could be critical of whatever. But it's like, that would have been interesting. Or if Olivia Wilde at the dinner party later, when she confronts Chris Pine, she could have been like silent about it instead of exploding and being, a typical woman. And blowing her cover basically and allowing him to gaslight her. I mean, we'll get to that later, I'm sure. But it's like, that was a moment when you could have made a more interesting creative choice, but you didn't. You did something, you didn't even execute the basic idea of your story. So I think that there are little nuggets where this movie could have been a more interesting version, even if it still sucked. But they never explored them.
No, that's true. You do introduce these bits, and you never go anywhere with them. You think, oh, are they doing some sort of secret bomb? Maybe they're creating a specific bomb because the Earth rattles. But I think the biggest one, and I mentioned this on Twitter, is the issue with the airplane. That I don't know. We'll get to it, but
we definitely will.
Yeah, you introduce something, and you give little hints, but you don't actually follow through. And then when you do have that big reveal, you just think, no, the whole thing is ridiculous. And I actually got the impression, and we'll probably talk about this later, that they were in a cult. That was my impression, that they were like in some sort of, what was that? Was that guru's name? The Bahuan in Oregon? He had that little town that he took over. The Bahuan Sri Rajneesh. Yeah. I figured that was like
I was getting more vibes. I think Spencer might know this in the chat. I was getting more vibes like Shako. Was it Shako Ekahara? Is that the name of the Japanese cult from the 90s? I'm pretty sure he can let me know if that's the name of it there.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I know it's the name of the leader, but I know that the cult itself had a different name.
That's the Netflix documentary, Wild Wild Country. Yeah, in Oregon, I think.
Yeah, but that was the sense. I thought the way they talk about Frank, and also, if you notice, there's a scene I think in the ballet where there's a big portrait of Frank in the background. Shamrico, that is. But I thought they were in a cult. I thought that maybe they were going to go all Jonestown at the end, which might have been more interesting. But yes, you introduce these little bits and you never follow through. You pretty much forget about them. And we'll talk about Margaret. I had an issue with her in a bit, but
one thing I wanted to bring up, have either of you guys seen 10 Cloverfield Lane?
No. I never watched it.
No. So it's a very, very good movie. Essentially, it's Elizabeth Winstead and John Goodman, and there's another guy, I can't remember his name, but they're in like a fallout shelter, and John Goodman is telling them that, a bomb went off and everyone's dead and like aliens are attacking or something like that, and you have to stay here because it's not safe for you to go up. Well, there's so much like paranoia built up within the course of that movie. You start thinking to yourself, okay, did something really happen, or is this guy just completely fucking nuts? So they just come to the conclusion that, okay, this guy's just completely fucking nuts, and they manage to escape. And then the second they escape, they realize, oh wait, aliens actually did attack us. So he was nuts, but he was also right as well. So I like twists like that you don't really exactly like see it coming, where they build it up to one thing and take like a turn. It actually makes it a very interesting twist. We didn't get that here. Before we do talk about the twist of this movie, I want to talk about our lead actress, Florence Pugh, who a lot of people are trying to hype up that she's going to get an Oscar nomination out of this film. Which I don't know how people came to this conclusion, because it's not a good film. And her performance in the film isn't exactly like lighting the world on fire. I thought the way that they portrayed her character, in a lot of sense, she was really just an idiot. In a lot of decisions that she made throughout the movie and her own life, she was just dumb. It's like, okay, you expect that there's something going on in this town that you can't trust, but you're just going out screaming it to the high heavens, even when people who are trying to side with you say that, hey, maybe it's not a good idea to shake the boat and hit the hornet's nest. You're just doubling down and making things worse for everyone around you, including yourself, which is like, okay, if you're a smart, cunning character, that's not what a smart person to do. A smart person will at least keep their ear to the ground and try to figure out what's going on before running around saying, they're lying to you, they're lying to you. Yeah, she just wasn't a very good character. I'm not saying she's a bad actress, but the character she's portraying, like, I don't know how people got Oscar worthy based off of this one. What did you guys think of her performance in this movie?
I honestly believe this movie production was her nightmare, because once she signed on, like once she got on set, she realized, oh, Olivia Wilde is Chris Pine. This is what we've realized, is that Olivia Wilde is Chris Pine, not Jordan Peterson, by the way, if you listen to what Chris Pine says, it's just a bunch of like nonsense, like magnanimous kind of speaking nonsense of like from a public speaking perspective. It's just like, and it's like, if you listen to Jordan Peterson, he doesn't sound anything like that. And so it's just like, the whole movie kind of proved to me she's never listened to that guy talk. So I think Florence Pugh's, this was her nightmare and she got through it. I will say this. I think she has enough charisma. I think she gives a good enough performance to at least carry the audience into the third act, because there were times when I wanted to care about her character, even though she has no character at all. Like, she has no foundation to build anything off of. So I think that, like, as bad as her character is, as bad as this movie is, I think she at least tries, gives it her all, even though there's really nothing for her to do. And she's kind of a dumb character who's like, I'm trapped in the bad decisions I made in my life, which is why I am in this, sense.
But they were her decisions, Rob. They were her decisions.
Exactly. And look at where you still ended up. Anyway, we'll get there, but it's hilarious to me.
Sorry, hearing Rob, it made me think of that. I don't know if you guys know Ronnie Millsap. He has a great song called "Lost in the '50s Tonight," and it looks like this is a movie that should be called "Lost in the '50s Tonight." Yeah. Look, the reason if they're talking up Oscar nominations for Florence Pugh, it's probably because she's probably the only good thing in this thing. She did give it her all. She was probably the only one who was trying to make this work. Now, I give credit. I didn't think Chris Pine was terrible, but she actually went. She went for it. She committed to this. She tried to play the terror that's building around her as her world is literally closing in on her at certain points. Yeah. So I give her credit for that. I mean, this is a case of a good actress, and I think Florence Pugh is a good actress, trying her best to elevate the material and try to make it as believable as and plausible as possible. But she doesn't have the director behind her. She doesn't have the script behind her, and she doesn't have many of the co-stars behind her. So she's trying to pull the entire production up. So I give her mad props, as you kids say these days. I give her mad props for trying, but no, she's not going to get a if she does get a nomination, it really shows that they're struggling to find 5 actresses to slip
5 woke enough actresses to be in an Oscar category, because like I said, Spencer said it earlier, they're trying to hype up the Woman King to get a bunch of Oscar nominations, which doesn't surprise me at all. I called that last week when we were reviewing the movie, that this is definitely going to get eaten up in award show seasons, just because it's a visual of strong Black women, and don't pay too much attention to the story because that's not important.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a battle between Viola and Angela for Best Actress. We all know that. We all know that.
Yeah, you could be right. I'm not even going to argue at this point. I will say this, though. I wouldn't throw all the blame on her, because I've seen her in stuff where she's actually like good. Like I mentioned this when we watched Black Widow. It was a couple years ago, and I saw Black Widow. I was like, dude, she completely stole this movie from Scarlett Johansson, who's like the title character of this movie. It's like her performance was far better. She was a much better character in that film than Black Widow was. So I've seen her in stuff where she actually is good. But as you said, I think just a lot of things were going against her her throughout the course of this film. And probably part of the reason why she didn't want to promote it is that not a lot of people are actually talking about like her experience of actually like making this movie, because it doesn't sound like it was a very pleasurable one, because there was rumors that, you know, she got into it with Shia LaBeouf, which is why Shia LaBeouf left the project, because he couldn't get adequate, you know, rehearsal time with her. Then there was rumors that, you know, she got into it with Olivia Wilde on set numerous times. So it seems like this is probably just a miserable experience for her. And then when they come back to promote this film, she probably wants nothing to do with anyone involved with it, especially with all the other messes going on here. And one of the messes here is Harry Styles, who I give him credit, because early on I was like, okay, is he trying to do an American accent or is he trying to do a British accent? Because he sounds like he's doing both at certain points. Yeah. But they did kind of cover it up by saying, oh, no, he's British, so no, don't worry about it. But they also lead that to the twist towards the end. I will say this. I wasn't too impressed with Harry Styles. I wouldn't say that he was terrible, but watching this film, like the context of the film, I would say he was a much better choice for this movie than if Shia LaBeouf stayed on with the project and played his role. I think he would have been, for the role that they put him in this film, I think he was better off than Shia was. You guys agree or disagree with that?
I mean, I would actually disagree with that, but I think Shia LaBeouf's a much better actor than Harry Styles. So
yeah.
You know, if he's in the right
that's
mindset,
obviously.
If he's in the right mindset, Shia LaBeouf, I would say he would be fine. But it's like the movie sucks anyway, so it's like I think it would still suffer. I will say this about Harry Styles' performance: I thought he was fine in the first half of the movie, but as the movie carried on, it's like Olivia Wilde was giving him directions off screen, like look down, sad like a puppy dog, and like mutter under your breath. You know, like there are these very basic emotive characteristics that he was sort of giving to the camera that it was just like, okay, I get it. He's a former boy band member who kind of is trying his footing in acting. Like it was fine, but as the movie carried on, you could kind of see those little flaws in his performance. And he wasn't given much to do. Like he's off working in the factory or whatever, the hidden secret base or whatever. So he's not there half the time anyway.
All right. So let me see. I'm going to see if I can't make this into a rant. Look, I can tell you first off that scene where she's taken away by the red suited goons.
Yeah.
And he's, having, he's screaming and having a meltdown. The theater audience was laughing. Yeah. It was just uncontrollably laughing at it. And as much as I know, I get the sense.
Do you think that it was just because of just how dumb the buildup was to that moment?
No,
or just his performance?
It was his performance. And yes, I wondered the same thing. Is he trying to be American or is he trying to be British?
Yeah.
Let's look at Harry Styles, your generation's Gene Kelly. And there is a reason why I always call him your generation's Gene Kelly. Gene Kelly, I was thinking about this. Gene Kelly had been on Broadway for years, had trained as a dancer for decades, before he went into his first movie, where he started out in musicals. You look at Sinatra as well. Sinatra, when he segued from singer to actor, started out in musicals. He actually was trained by Gene Kelly or mentored by him to do steps that were that looked good, but were pretty simple for a non-dancer. Now you've got people like Harry Styles, who either truly believe that they can do this, or have been told that they can do this, that they can go from being a pop star into being the lead in a major dramatic role. Look at his filmography so far. A small part in Dunkirk where I don't even think he lives to the end of the movie. I can't remember. And then a cameo in Eternals. One that I literally turned to my friend when I saw it. I said, was that Harry Styles? I thought I was hallucinating, people. I literally thought I was hallucinating and was seeing Harry Styles up there when it was actually some other actor. And I was just, kind of seeing things that were not there. You go from his cameo in Eternals to trying to be this dramatic role. It's, to me, the equivalent of trying to put Sinatra going from performing the Tommy Dorsey Band to making his first starring vehicle like something like The Manchurian Candidate or From Here to Eternity. Styles does not have the training, the experience to be in this dramatic role. Shia LaBeouf for whatever his faults, and he probably would not have been the right choice for this particular part, but he's a trained actor. He knows what he's doing. Harry Styles has nothing but a pretty face and the fact that he's now stooping the director. Those are the only qualifications that he has to be in this movie. He was not acting. This was a terrible performance. You can't convince me that this guy is going to be a serious dramatic actor, or at least he should not try without building. This is a problem that happens with a lot of other entertainers who try to go from one genre to another. They try to jump in and think they can do it right away. No, you can't. You have to have that build up. You have to go small. You should have put him in a musical, or you could have put him in smaller parts. Maybe it would have worked if he had been one of his coworkers, one of the coworkers, or the husband to Bunny, the Olivia Wilde character. But to put him as the lead when you have very little training, when you have very little film acting experience, or even any acting experience. I mean, this is a kid who started out in what, Britain's Got Talent. How are you going to make him into this leading dramatic actor? It's terrible, and he's not good in this part. Apart from apart from having a pretty face, there's nothing. And apparently, the ability to pleasure a woman on the kitchen table, he has nothing to offer for this performance.
Well, I mean, arguably he does have that performance because he is sleeping with the director. So I mean, you can't really found him against that one, right?
Well, no, I guess rehearsal time went way too far between Wilde and Styles for that scene. But no, this was terrible. This was terrible, and that's why I always call him your generation's Gene Kelly, because at least Kelly and Sinatra and Doris Day, they started out small. They did not try to jump into big dramatic parts after coming off a film. I mean, a singing career. Uh, why they decided that their Harry Styles was the perfect person for this part, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they could have. There are many actors who could have. I don't know what that means, Rob.
I mean, shit.
Yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
innocent. I mean, they've tried this. I mean, Taylor Swift is trying the same thing. Britney Spears tried the same thing. It's not working. It's not going to work. I mean, the closest person has been what, Eminem, and he was basically playing himself in one movie. And I think in the interview, he played himself, or a parody of himself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
other than that, no, he was wrong for this part. He should never have been in this movie. He shouldn't even be in Eternals, to be perfectly honest. I don't even know why he's going to be there, and we're going to be saddled with a movie, a Marvel movie, where he's going to be the lead. This is no. Have him stick to waking me up every morning with that insipid song that I have to hear when the alarm goes off. That's pretty much the extent of his abilities, and even that I question.
But this is nepotism. You know, when people talk about nepotism, I know that it's about like your friends or family in Hollywood and how you get jobs and stuff. But like Harry Styles is not qualified. He's not talented. He doesn't deserve these opportunities in a million years over an extra who's been trying to get any role. You know what I mean? It's like there's no reason he deserves to be here. Oh, but he's famous. He knows people, and that's enough.
Well, a couple of notes here. First of all, Eminem's best performance he's ever given as an actor was in a film called The Wash. And if you've seen The Wash, you know what I'm talking about. It's not a good movie, but that one scene that he was in was actually funny. So that's the only one that I'll put over.
I actually found his scene in the interview funny when he comes out.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Man, the early 2000s is a weird time because for so many years we thought that guy was like a tough guy. He's like, the dude's like 5'5". Like, why are we afraid of Eminem? But, hey, that's besides the point. That's a side rant on this another day. But you guys mentioned the fact that, Harry Styles isn't qualified for the roles that he's given. I don't disagree with that. But if you're going to throw him under the bus for not being qualified, you also have to look at your writer and your director of this movie. The writer of this director, who I believe I'm saying her name right, is Katie Silberman. Her only films that she's written up to this point, she did work with Olivia Wilde on the film Booksmart, which Spencer mentioned earlier. That's why they're doing this film right here. Before that one, she did the Rebel Wilson romantic comedy, Isn't It Romantic, which was god awful. And then I think the other one before that was like another romantic comedy with somebody else like years before that. So those are her only 2 writing credits as a feature film writer up to this point. And then Olivia Wilde, as a feature film director, only has Booksmart before she did this movie. And now she's going to be doing a Marvel Spider-Woman movie as well. So it's like, it's not like that anyone else in this film has a whole lot of experience and a whole lot of, work as an actor as well. I mean, you can even argue that Florence Pugh, being as young as she is, she doesn't have a whole court of experience, but compared to everyone else that she's working with in this film, she's probably more experienced given the context of who's in charge here. So,
all right. First off, Florence Pugh has at least an Oscar nomination under her belt. And you also have to mention that the story credit goes to the 2 of the grandsons of Dick Van Dyke, Shane and Casey Van Dyke, I believe their names are. So you talk about nepotism. Okay, there you go.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the twist of this movie, because this is where everything starts to fall apart. So, our lead actress, I think their name is Alice in the movie. If I forget, it's because I blocked it out of my memory. So she's on a bus because she's starting to having like these visions where she's at this ballerina platform, and then she starts having visions that the girl Margaret, I believe her name, starts going crazy, and the next thing you know, like her face is being smushed into like the window of her house, and she's being crushed, and she turns around and like nothing's gone. So she's having all these weird visions. She doesn't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden she's on this bus and she sees a plane crash just into the mountain, just flies over her and crashes. And she's like, we have to go over there and do something. We have to go, maybe they need help. And it's like, that's not my route. I'm not going over there. Now, they tried to make it seem like it was kind of like a mysterious angle where it's like, no, well, I can't go over there because, I'm not allowed to go over there, where it could just been like, I'm not fucking going over there. I'm on a bus. And if they crash in the mountains, like, what do you think we're going to do? Like, say these people like, no. But of course, she decides, no, I'm going to go out there and save those people who crashed on that plane. So she goes out there. I think she was wearing like high heels or something like that in the desert, no water, no communications whatsoever, just wandering around in the desert. And all of a sudden, she goes to, I guess, like this little like watchtower, like almost borderline lighthouse, where she presses the door, she passes out, and she just wakes up in her house, and no one can explain exactly how she got there. So that was the big tease of mystery of like what's going on. It's like, is there a twist to this film? Well, here's where we'll get down to it. If you haven't watched this movie, if you plan on watching this movie, maybe just mute us for the next couple of minutes. But here's the twist of the movie. Towards the end of the film, we find out that the world that they're living in, this Victory, California, doesn't actually exist. It's a virtual simulation. So essentially what happened is that Alice is the real Alice in her real life. She is a surgeon working at a hospital. She works 60 hours a week. She goes home. She has to go straight to sleep. She doesn't even eat when she's at home. She just goes straight to bed. She's complaining about her life, being like, oh, I'm so tired. I work 60 hours a week, and I got to get up in 6 hours to go work some more. And then, her husband, who's the kind of American like loser, long hair, doesn't look like he bathes very much, wants to show her affection, wants to show her that he loves her, but she's just too busy, so she has no time for this relationship. So instead of, leaving the relationship, going and finding somewhere else where you're actually happy, he decides that, there's this thing called the Victory Project, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to essentially kidnap my girlfriend and force her into this virtual reality where all of the women in this universe have to live in the virtual simulation 24 hours a day in order for this to work. They can't leave. The men, on the other hand, when they go out to the woods, where they tell them, you can't go out there, what they're actually doing is that they're leaving the virtual world to go to the real world so they can work a job so that they can afford to keep the simulation going. And that's like the big twist of the movie. So she finally finds out that this whole world is a simulation and she needs to get out there. But also, if you die in the simulation, you also die in real life, which seems like something that should have been in a fine print somewhere. That if you die in the fake world, that you die in real life, because I don't think so many guys would have actually signed up for that had they known that beforehand. So there's this whole dramatic like chase scene in the desert where they're trying to get her, they're trying to stop her from going back into the real world, and then the movie just ends. And then, by the way, Chris Pine, who was kind of built up to be like the big bad like guy in control of this whole universe, he just gets stabbed and dies for kind of no reason whatsoever towards the end of the movie. And I thought that I was going to give the film credit because I thought what they were going to do was that it was going to be a twist that everyone thought that Chris Pine was the guy in charge of this whole project when it was really his wife. So when his wife kills him, it's like, oh, so she was the one in charge, and then she's the one that's going to go after Alice because Alice is ruining everything that she built up. It's like, no, he just kills her, and then the movie ends, and then that's it. So, how'd you guys like the twist of the film? I'll let Rob go. How'd you like it, bro?
So it's like this terrible amalgamation of like Westworld and Get Out and the Truman Show, and it presents all these ideas that it never concludes or deals with. And it doesn't even get the basic premise of, hey, it's wrong to keep women down. Hey, patriarchy is evil. It's like, no, your own main character is miserable in her own life. And so her husband kidnapped her to be part of a fantasy world. And that was better than the dead end 60-hour a week job that you were miserable at. So Olivia Wilde is Chris Pine. She's the one advocating for patriarchy. She's the one saying, hey, women, stay at home, make a sandwich, put on an apron, please.
And that's the real quick before I let Rob get it. Like that was the whole point of that twist is like you're showing a character who's miserable with her own life. She's miserable at her job. She's miserable at home. She's not in a good relationship whatsoever. But they tried to portray it that, well, he's the bad guy because he kidnapped her and forced her into this virtual world. And then he's like, but you're admitting that she was miserable in her own life. So it's not like she had this great, awesome life that he stole from her. She had an absolutely miserable life. And then in his mind, he was so miserable too that he's like, okay, we'll put us both in a fantasy where we can at least be happy. But in their mindset, they were like, no, that's bad because you're still taking her choice away from her, even if her choice is completely abhorrent to what she wants in her life to begin with. So he's still the bad guy. Then, of course, he just dies like randomly. I think like she hit him in the head with like a glass or something like that. He just like dies like dead. Like
I'm assuming he bleeds to death.
Yeah, and Florence Pugh's character being like, it's my turn now, like she's vindicated or something by killing him. It was like, what? What do you...
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, you rattled off a bunch of other movies. The one that came to mind for me was The Village because they couldn't leave. And then, I'm sorry, when we get the reveal about Bunny, the Olivia Wilde character, who here did not think WandaVision? Seriously, who here did not think...
I didn't watch it.
I did. Oh,
okay.
Who here didn't know about it? Because she stayed there willingly because her kids could be alive in this universe. And I'm thinking, I never saw WandaVision, but I wrote in my notes, Bunny is Wanda from WandaVision because now she's staying in this world. A lot of it, and by the way, it was something that I thought, and I mentioned it on Twitter, that the name Alice, I guess, was deliberate because now she's in the Wonderland. She's in this unnatural world. A little too
clever.
Yeah, a little too on the nose for my taste. But my question is, first, I can tell you that again, the audience was laughing when they saw the twist, and I think I'm not the only person who has mentioned this, that the audience was laughing at this twist. But there are questions. First off, if she works 60 hours a week, but she's kidnapped, no one noticed that she was missing.
A top surgeon at a hospital just disappears and no one makes note of it.
And apparently no one notices when all these other women disappear. I didn't get the sense that if so Bunny says that if you're killed in this world, you're killed in the real world. All right, what about Margaret? Because Margaret, she slit her throat and fell off the roof, but I guess I'm assuming that she's dead, but she died by her own hand versus being killed by someone else. So did she live or did she die? We don't know. What about her child, the one that had the little red plane that I guess was supposed to be the equivalent of the large plane that crashed? Is he dead or is he just part of the fantasy? So many questions are thrown at us that don't seem to have an answer or make any sense. But I do appreciate the fact that Olivia Wilde apparently always wanted to make a Busby Berkeley musical number because we get treated to a lot of those shots. And I'm going, okay, for the people who know they're obviously going to think this is a Buzzley Berkeley musical number here. You're almost expecting someone to just, they are singing and dancing. So a lot of this movie, if you think about it, did not make any sense. And as for the twist, no, I don't buy it. It makes less sense the more you think about it. I'm still waiting to find out why no one noticed that, that Alice was not at the hospital. She just disappeared. How does he keep her alive? Does he like feed her through a test tube, or like
How
put
does she use
drops?
the bathroom?
Well, I'm assuming she has a diaper. Uh,
I mean, eventually got to change that too, right?
yeah, and so how does he pay for this program? Do you volunteer for? Do you get like a discount? How do you keep this going if you have no job and you're very scuzzy looking, like Harry Styles was in this?
Because it's never portrayed that like he's like some like 6-figure like lawyer or doctor who has a high paying job himself. Like they just portray him as if he's like some loser who all he does is just like sit on his computer all day. So it's like,
Yeah,
what kind of job does this guy have that he can afford this 24/7 computer simulation?
yeah. He can afford this this listening to this guru trying to convince him to stay. Yeah, I think I commented that it's a combination of The Village, The Matrix, and The Stepford Wives. And there are probably a few other films mixed into this. None of this makes sense. Where did the goons come from? Who releases them?
Frank.
These
Frank is an all-controlling patriarch of the
goons,
patriarchy.
the goons are literally tech support.
Yeah, all in their red suits, and I guess the doctor also gets killed because he crashes into the other goons chasing her. Eh, a lot of this movie, I think it's trying to be far too clever by half. It thinks it's saying something, but it's really just running all over the place. It is something interesting here that I kind of just going to throw out there. That scene that scene at the victory part, or the at the ball or the dance where Jack is elevated to vice president or whatever.
Yeah.
When Chris Pine gives him that ring, it looks like a wedding ceremony. I don't know why. I know that we're going to watch Bros pretty soon, but for some reason it
Well,
looked like a wedding ceremony, and then he breaks out into this dance, and I'm thinking you couldn't even shoot him the full body. You had to show the feet and then the torso. You couldn't show him Fred Astaire. Come on, for this generation's Gene Kelly, you couldn't even show him do a Gene Kelly dance routine. But again, none of this movie, if you think about it, makes sense. I hated that whole thing about, oh well, it's not a real world. Okay, fine. If you want to keep that going, if you want to make that the twist, all right, it's dumb, but you can go with it. What bothered me is that it kept going. We kept going. Like, all right, we're the suspense is gone. We don't care at this point whether or not all these people die and are trapped in the Matrix forever. It's irrelevant. It's a terrible, laughable. It's a laughable ending. Literally laughable. I can say literally laughable.
Before I let Rob go, about that scene specifically was why it makes no sense, because like I said, he puts the ring on and then he starts doing like this dance number, and it starts to get to a point, I'm sure if you guys notice this too, where it starts looking like that Harry is like very uncomfortable with the fact that he's like dancing almost like he's being forced to. So I thought that the ring that he put on was like some kind of like controlling device where Chris Pine's character is like forcing him to dance in front of these people. I thought that was actually going to be like an added like twist to the film. It's like, okay, whatever's going on, like he's just as big as a victim here as she is, because he clearly knows something that she doesn't. That was kind of like the whole play into the mystery. Like, look, he knows what's really going on, but he's trying to protect her from it, but she just keeps making the situation worse. But they don't do that in the film, because at the end of the day, you're not supposed to feel bad for his character. You're supposed to feel bad for her character, right? So, and by adding that scene where you could be essentially torturing him on stage by forcing him to dance, that would be sympathy towards that character in his situation. But at the end of the film, you're not supposed to feel any sympathy for him. So that scene just goes like, well, what was even the point of it then? It almost felt like maybe something was cut out in post, but it just felt like the whole thing.
It's to showcase his skills as his generation's Gene Kelly, sir.
Oh,
well, actually, it's interesting you said that things were cut out, because the woman, and again, pardon me for not knowing the characters' names, but the black lady who's supposed to be Margaret. So for her, like, she's supposed to be like the black tokenist symbol for Florence Pugh to be awoken by, her
Yeah.
example or whatever of killing herself. But it's like they apparently cut out a lot of her character's like backstory and purpose in this movie, because the actress has like been on Instagram already and been like, hey, me and my husband in the movie's like characters were severely left on the cutting room floor. And so, hey, we're just, we're happy that we can be part of the movie, but basically there was a lot more that was left out.
You
So
mean this story right here?
yeah,
Saying
I believe
that
so.
she was cut out of most of the movie, but she got her check anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But because there was like a bunch of different threads on Twitter about this
Yeah.
that like apparently there's a lot more to the movie, but who
Well,
knows?
the complaint was that not only was she a quote a token character, but that because she's black, she had to be killed off. She couldn't make it to the end, because it's racism.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot of missed opportunities here, especially with a world with this twist. But I feel like with modern Hollywood movies, they can't go the direction that would probably make more sense and actually build more intrigue and tension in the story, because they're more worried about the message that these films are trying to portray. Like we had mentioned earlier, that Olivia Wilde's character is in this film by choice, right? Because her kids, it's implied that her kids die, but if she stays in this universe, her kids are still alive. I was thinking of something more towards, if you guys remember the Josh Whedon TV show from a few years back, about a decade ago, called Dollhouse, where you have these people who are essentially people for hire. Like they could be sex slaves, they could be assassins, wherever the case may be. But the secret is that all these people signed up by choice, because they're all running from something that they did in their past lives, that hopefully that doing this will make up for it, right? So I was thinking a good twist maybe would have been that the reason why she was running away, the reason why Henry Styles was trying to protect her, was because she did something, something traumatic happened to her in her life before then, that she's trying to, I guess, forget or get it out of her mindset or something like that. Where okay, she's in this universe for a reason. There's a bigger story here that he's trying to protect her from. But no, we don't get that. Like if it was something like all of these women are here because they were here by choice, because they're running away from something they did or something traumatic in their life, it could have added an extra layer to the story that would have been like much better. You actually would have felt sympathy for a lot more of these characters than you did. But like I said, that goes against the ultimate message of, I guess, the overall story. The message I felt for this story is that they were trying to tell a story of how weak men thirst to control women, and that's the only takeaway you were supposed to have away from this film. But it's like you could have gone so many other ways that would have made this a far better movie. Towards the end, you refuse to go there, and that's maybe because you don't have experienced writers, you don't have experienced directors or actors. They're just more focused on, okay, how do we spend 2 hours telling our message of 50s bad, patriarchy bad, don't be a housewife, go work for 60 hours and be miserable.
Well, the thing I think the biggest issue with the movie is that it's a plot-driven movie that never comes through in its plot. It has so many plot holes, that it has so many areas of misdirection that never become fulfilled or have any reason for existing. And that's the biggest problem, is that it's a train wreck of a movie. If you were to study this and pick it apart and look at it, and it would just be like, this, where were you taking this piece of crap? Because there's nothing here it's so threadbare. So that it's just a disappointing, like, that somebody would produce this and make this, and that Warner Brothers thought it was a good idea.
Well, the fact that they were willing to promote this over Shazam, which would probably be a much more successful film box office wise, because a lot of comic book movies. Were they
gambling on the drama? Like, were they gambling on it being like, oh, it's an Olivia Wilde movie and it's about how men are bad? People are going to want to see that.
No, I don't know. And then as someone who has heard of Jordan Peterson but has never actually heard him, whatever message they were trying to put through the Chris Pine character kind of went over my head. Again, I actually thought that Chris Pine's character was closer to what L. Ron Hubbard allegedly does. I'm saying allegedly so I won't get sued. What he allegedly has done and created this world. So I thought he was more like a guru, and I was expecting something like that. The twist would be that this is a kind of a village type universe, and that they're really being controlled by this one person with nefarious thoughts, but no, it was. It's just
And like I said earlier, you could have told a better story without even having to be like a nefarious character, but like behind the scenes and things of that nature. Like if the story was that okay, she worked 60 hours a night, she barely gets any sleep, she was miserable at home, and one night because she was so tired going in or coming back from work, she runs over a kid and kills him, and then in the course of that, she becomes horribly depressed and unhappy. So he's like, well, the only way that I can save her and regain any happiness in our life is to do this project. And of course, he didn't tell her the reasoning from it because there was just too much trauma for her to handle. And the whole movie was like him trying to protect that from her. You could have had a lot better story of that film. It would have made you feel more for both of their characters going into it. But at that point, you wouldn't be able to kill Harry Styles by bashing his head in.
And... Why is she with this loser? Why is she with this loser?
You can also argue, why is he with him? I mean, why is he with her? Because it's like you're not even in a real relationship. So it's like, why are you sticking around for?
Right.
Well, because I'm assuming because she pays the bills. So he's kind of like a kept man, an unkept man. So there's no, I think they were just trying too hard to make this clever and to make this, I guess, some sort of allegory about the. I guess if you want to think about it as an allegory of the patriarchy and how weak men are trying to suppress strong women. I didn't get the sense at all because I only got the sense that these people were just going in circles trying to make something work, and it didn't, putting in story ideas and plot points that just didn't work. But I mean, you did the only thing that you wanted to focus on was the dining room, and they're having a lot of sex to 1950s music. So apparently doo-wop is a turn on for a lot of people, I guess. I don't know.
I thought the food looked good. I liked the eggs and coffee in the morning, and I liked the steak being rubbed by Florence Pugh's hands.
But there were no eggs inside. There were no eggs once you cracked the shell.
I know.
Rob.
Look, I do want to say this, that dinner party scene or whatever, when like there's that psychological tug of war going on between Florence Pugh and Chris Pine. That could have been so much better. Like if they spent time on that, kind of just them fucking going back and forth, instead of what it was. It was just like there's so many opportunities throughout this movie to make it better, and it feels like Olivia Wilde and the screenwriters just didn't give a shit. Like they were just like, hey, we're gonna make a movie about housewives and how these people that are unaware are actually being brainwashed, and none of that comes through. It's just a bad movie.
I think that's one of the things, and that dinner scene, that's one of the things I appreciate about Florence Pugh. She's working hard to make it tense and to make it to keep that rage from just exploding full out. Though you do get this. You do get the sense that Chris Pine is what do you call it, a voyeur, because he catches them having one of their many romps, because there's a lot of romping going around. The 1950s were very randy decade.
The second cunnilingus scene I was like, okay, we get it. The first one, it was like, okay, whatever, fine, it's a sex scene, I'm an adult, like I can deal. But holy shit, dude.
Well, I mean, maybe Olivia Wilde was just trying to show the world.
Also, can I point this out? Why is it okay if it's supposed to be a patriarchy? Why is the cunnilingus to distract Florence Pugh? You know what I mean? Like, why isn't it a man?
When you've got Harry Styles, I guess.
What's that about?
I will say this, though, that no one's brought up. Do you think part of the reason why Florence was so unhappy was that she's doing sex scenes with Harry Styles being directed by Olivia Wilde, who is sleeping with Harry Styles? So in a way, it's kind of like this weird cuckold situation where she's watching somebody else bang her guy and just being uncomfortable as fuck during that whole thing. Like maybe that had a little bit to do with it.
Maybe, because all that's in there because of her. All of that's in there for Olivia Wilde, and it's like, okay, you don't even have a reason to have this in here. And I get it, you're a woman, and I'm just gonna put it in because it's sexy to me. It's like, and that's fine. But like, you can't also be part of the Me Too thing and criticize male directors for being sexual. Because like, whatever, human beings are artists, whatever, people are sexual, but like, it has to have an artistic reason to exist.
Well, first of
Otherwise,
all,
you're going to get criticized for it.
well, first of all, she can't be part of Me Too thing because she was literally BFS with Harvey Weinstein, who was the start of the whole thing in the first place.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very true.
Well, maybe it's as close to them having a sex tape without literally being a sex tape. I don't know, but the only the conclusion at the end, I started laughing only because they played Shaboom again, and that's how they ended Clue. And that was my big takeaway. Is like I'm having flashbacks to Clue of all things as I'm watching what's supposed to be this very deep, um, almost esoteric sci-fi drama that's supposed to be an allegory of something. No, all I keep picturing is a bunch of great comic performances and the murder mystery. That's all I keep picturing as I keep hearing shaboom shaboom running through my head. I thought that was funny. That's when I laughed. I didn't laugh at the twist. I didn't laugh at Harry Styles. I laughed at that.
Well, I will say this. We'll go ahead and go with the final thoughts of this movie. All the drama going up to it, I was thinking to myself, if this is at least a somewhat decent film, then maybe we can just forgive all the stuff going into it. But you're talking about a film directed by Olivia Wilde, written by a chick who did like a Reba Wilson comedy. So there was really no hope for this movie from the jump. This is a movie that definitely tried to magnify the message in front of the camera, and then by trying to be a feminist pipe dream, and then the fact that there was just so much stuff going on behind the scenes, the fact that there was just so many missed opportunities in front of the camera, this kind of just goes to show you how that's all just a complete pipe dream. Like the idea that, well, if we just put women in charge, everything will be better. It's like, oh really? How'd that work out for this film? No, this movie was just abysmal. I think this is probably, I wouldn't say it's the worst movie of the year. It's definitely in my top 10, at least for the moment. But this was probably the biggest cinematic failure of 2022 so far, all things considered. This is just a bad movie, bad twist, everything going on behind the scenes. This one pretty much failed on every conceivable level. And yeah, this is just rotten. I'm going to give this one a 1 out of 5. And that's probably being a bit generous, but I'll at least give it a 1 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 1.5 out of 5 because I did like the costuming, production design, cinematography for most of the movie. It made an attempt to actually, initiate itself with the movie. But yeah, just a complete train wreck, plot wise, character wise. It's pretty dead on arrival, just with the ideas it presents, and it goes nowhere with them. It doesn't take you anywhere. And I really think it's a thankless opportunity for Florence Pugh, who hopefully will move on to bigger and brighter things. But everybody else associated with this movie deserves to absolutely drive off a cliff because they're so fucking awful for being part of this movie. So 1.5 out of 5. I watched Halloween 3 this weekend, and that was superior in every way. So.
Well, I think I'll be more generous. Not in my rating; it's still 1 out of 1.5. I'm with Rob on this, but I'll be more generous. I don't think they should drive off a cliff. I think they should just get those red suited goons to go and lock them up somewhere and give them electroshock treatments to see what to see if they can improve. Um, this movie is a mess, and I don't care about the back the behind the scenes drama of who's zooming who, and who is slapping each other and going through all of this. Florence Pugh deserves a lot better than this, and hopefully she is going on to bigger and better things, because she is going to be in Dune 2, which is going to be a hit regardless of whether you guys are continue to be wrong about the first one. So I would tell his generation's Gene Kelly, please stop trying to act, or if you do, go on Broadway or the West End, try a musical that can showcase whatever skills you have. Or if you're going to be in movies, be in smaller parts and make them more attuned to whatever skills you have. I know he has My Policeman, where he's going to play a gay cop, a gay repressed cop from the 1950s, and you think he's trying so hard. But no, please stop acting and stop trying to convince the world that you are your generation's Gene Kelly. This movie is a mess. You've got things that don't make any sense when you think about them. And yes, all the actors. I like Chris Pine. I think he could. No, I'm not. No. Okay, all right. His generation's Frank Sinatra. Benny better. So so he needs. Yeah. No, 1.5, and but I would still watch this over The Gray Man. Sorry, just not giving up on that one.
Well, for me, this movie, it's I would say it's better than Thor: Love and Thunder, but I actually hated it less than I hated it more than they them. So there's that. It's somewhere in that category. I think it's The Shining.
It's a good movie.
I think the last good movie we reviewed on this show was Jaws. That came out like 30 fucking years ago. So,
No, well, I mean, I actually like Minions, so that was the only thing I've liked.
you know what the problem is? We started this show right before I think Top Gun. And I think it's been all downhill from there. So, well, if you think that it might get any better next week, don't hold your breath, because next week we're going to be reviewing 2 movies again. We're going to be reviewing Rob's most anticipated movie of the year, Blonde, with Anna de Armas playing Marilyn Monroe,
Sure.
and then of course I can't let you guys have too much fun. So next week we'll also be reviewing Bros, the first ever gay rom-com in the history of cinema, 100 years, as he's proclaimed. We're going to be reviewing that film as well. Then one last thing on this movie, the Don't Worry Darling. I've seen some Cope headlines before, but I just wanted to share this one before we head out of here. This is from Variety, which says, was Don't Worry Darling helped by off-screen scandals? Of course. They made the movie sound like a tabloid soap opera. It's like, what? What does that have to do with the film?
And here's what's really criminal about this. I know who wrote that article. This guy named Owen Gleiberman, who I actually respect a hell of a lot because he comes from the era of critics when they mattered. He's been really writing these softball pieces for Variety the last couple of years, and it's like, dude, where did your balls go? Seriously, like that guy used to trash movies, and it's like, this is a movie that like absolutely deserves a critical thrashing. You know, it got like a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes, something like that.
Well,
Yeah,
I think I think we should have a movie about the making of Don't Worry Darling. That I think might be more interesting than the actual movie that we got.
Well, the controversy is more interesting than the movie. And that is never a good sign.
Yeah.
Well, the audience laughing at the reveal, that's not a good sign either.
Well, if I can just get a quick little one point there, I think if Owen was actually harsh on the movies like he should be, he probably wouldn't be working for Variety anymore. Which is a decision that you're going to have to make on your own time. Do you value your integrity or your paycheck? Because you can't choose both. And I just want to say that, you know, before you guys go around, oh, you guys do nothing but watch bad movies. I will tell you this: I saw a movie this week that is right now in my top 10, not very high in my top 10, but it's my top 10 movie. Have you guys seen the film Pearl yet? Have you guys heard about this film?
No, I know what it is though. Yeah.
I saw it this weekend. It's very, very good. I have to go back and watch the film X, which is the one that came out earlier this year, to see how the continuity lines up. But I was more impressed with the trailer for Pearl than I was for X. But I haven't seen it yet, so maybe that's good too. But Pearl is definitely a good movie. It's very twisted. There's a lot of blood, so if you're squeamish, if you're a bit of a pussy, maybe don't go watch the movie. But it's a very, very good film.
Yeah,
See, so.
I just want to make a real quick correction to the comments that have been made. I'm a Gen Xer, not a boomer. So let's just put that out there. I'm a Gen Xer, not a boomer. Stop calling me a boomer.
You and Christian Toto both have the personality of a boomer, and you're both Gen X. And I love you both. Listen, I love you both. So this is not a swipe at Christian, but it's like the amount of times on Twitter I have to bite my tongue in terms of wanting to reply in a smart ass way. I have to just be like, look, he's nice enough to follow you and put up with your bullshit.
He's one of the few guys on Twitter who hasn't
to-
blocked you yet.
Just try to like pump the brakes a little bit. Yeah, exactly. So
I
he's a
am
good
not-
guy. He's a good guy. So yeah, I just wanted
Hey,
to point that out. So.
Look, I minus the legalized segregation, I like the 1950s. I like Ike. I would have voted for him twice.
For movies, the movies that came out in the 1950s are great. I will say that.
And my point about 1950s movies 1000% stands. So there you go.
And I just no, I don't want that. But I'll say this much: I'm so used to Rob. I never take offense at anything he says because I'm used to it. But yes,
Yeah.
Christian is the nicest person. So even I have called him out a few times on things that he's wrong, but he's always very patient and tolerant with us.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not a boomer. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm a proud Gen Xer, and that's why he's your generation's Gene Kelly, not mine, and I'm not giving that up.
Well, let's give up on this night. So I'll go ahead and let everyone promote their stuff. Rob, I'm assuming you have a YouTube channel in the works where you can get Rob Unleashed.
Yes.
Where you don't have to hold back anymore.
I'll be completely honest with you. Outside of literally hitting record on my webcam, I don't know how to make videos. So, I might do streams or something. I have no idea what I'm doing. So that's probably why I'm so consistently here. I like to express myself, but really, I don't know what the hell I'm doing because I'm lazy and somewhat apathetic. But that's probably neither here nor there. I might have a YouTube channel in the future. I can't guarantee past that. I'm trying to get this Any Given Sunday review out, because I've been talking about it the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely going to be reviewing Blonde when I see it. I'm going to watch it Wednesday night, I think, when it comes out. So that's coming in the next week. So, and I'm looking forward to the show we're going to do on it next Monday. Just have to put up with that terrible Bros rom-com.
Yeah, we're all gonna suffer together as far as that one goes. It's like our worst of list just keeps on getting bigger, which I don't know how this man right here can still say with a straight face that The Gray Man is the worst movie that we've seen so far this year. Where there's been at least 6 movies we reviewed on this show that's been far worse than that. But where can they find more of you, Rick?
I'm sorry, I need a moment. All right. Well, I will. I'm still at Rick's Texan Reviews. You can find me at Rick's Cafe Texan. Still trying to clear out my DVRs, but first, I'm not looking forward to Bros, but I've already signed up for what is called a Bros brunch, which means that I will be served, I guess, food while I watch, and I will be watching it with one of my close friends who is openly gay. So I guess he'll translate some of the things that are going on.
Just don't sit too close.
Well, no, we're going to sit right next to each other. But it's okay because his now fiance, he did meet through Grindr. So there you go. And of course, I had to have that explained. So you see, this is how naive I am. I'm innocent, and so I'm still clearing out my reviews, still trying to write. I'm not looking for. I'm looking forward to Blonde, but not to the obsessive nature that Rob is. I think he's already given her Best Actress sight unseen, and he's worshiping her already. So maybe I'll watch like. Well, you should watch. Like, I'm sure you've seen like Niagara and things like that.
Oh yeah.
So I'm interested in Blonde. Hey, I actually do remember drive-ins. I'm old enough to actually. We did have a drive-in in El Paso, although we only saw Mexican movies at our drive-in. So, hey, my grandmother was Mexican, my mom was Mexican. Of course, I'm going to be watching that. So I'm just trying to clear out the DVRs now that baseball season is finally ended. At least for the minor league Chihuahuas, I can devote more time to watching movies and things like that, and trying to figure out how to turn on a YouTube recorder. So you see, Rob is ahead of me because he can hit the record button. I can't even find the record button, but then I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm not up with the technology like you guys.
Got it. What is it with boomers and technology? It's like, why is that
I'm
like your
not a
moral
boomer.
All right, then.
I
Just a
barely
quick.
got apps on my phone.
I just wanted to make a quick little note here. Red Sox out of contention. Good.
Woohoo!
So, yeah, outside of that, you said next Monday night we'll be back here with 2 movies instead of 1. Hopefully the blonde movie is worthy. Hopefully, did I hear that movie's like 3 hours long?
Yep.
2 hours and 46 minutes. Which is, I think I was told that it was as long as the miniseries that had been made from the book.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Bros is also 2 hours long, so there's that as well. So, anyway, yeah, so we'll be reviewing those 2 movies next Monday night. Tomorrow night on the Barroom Podcast, we have a lot to talk about. So we're going to talk about Kevin Feige coming out and trying to explain why he decided to make money off of Chadwick Boseman's death for Wakanda Forever, the other female Black Panther movie that we're going to be watching here in a few weeks. The Wizard of Oz is getting a remake, and apparently it's going to be very gay. Lots of representation is going to be in that film. Constance Wu, who really wants to get off this fucking ABC show, and she can't. And we're going to be talking about that story tomorrow. GAC Family is going to war against Hallmark to see who can make the cheesier lovey-dovey family film. So there's that one to look forward to tomorrow. And then, of course, this is going to be a shocker. I know you guys are going to be floored when you hear this, but the movie Bros, the movie we're reviewing next week, it's been banned in the Middle East. Did you guys hear about this?
No.
Are you guys shocked that they banned Bros
No.
in the Middle East?
I'm not shocked at all.
Where's Chris Evans when you need him?
Exactly. So yeah, that's gonna go on. That's tomorrow night, 9 p.m. We'll have everyone on. I know Cassie will be on there. Spencer never has time to join us anymore. He's too busy trying to edit all the articles on Bounding in the Comics he possibly can in one day. And then on Wednesday, our good friend Nerdvigans is going to be back. We're going to be talking about season 2 of Digimon and why it's shit. So that's going to be a very, very fun conversation with us if you get into more of the nerd talk. And then, of course, Wednesday night, you'll find us on the Bounding in the Comment Blackpool stream. We'll talk about, I don't know, we'll find something to talk about. It's kind of been in the slow news week a little bit, but we'll keep you entertained there. So any other final words for you guys here on this Monday night?
Well, let's see. First, the Chihuahuas are AAA, not single A. And we are in the championship. We're in the championship finals, I think. So we're doing great. But no, it's been fun. I've enjoyed these jolly romps through bad cinema. I mean, I thought Mystery Science Theater 3000 was pretty good. We're getting our own version of it.
Yeah, something to keep us happy, something to keep us wanting to exist on this plane that we call existence. So, yeah. Until then, I'll let you guys get back to your Monday Night Football game. It's not very entertaining, but just a quick little side note before we run out of here. The Cowboys, their navy blue jerseys, for my money, is the best jersey in all of football. Would you guys agree or disagree with this one?
They're one of the ugliest. Since I was a kid, they like whenever they wore their dark blue, I was like, they're losing. The
fact that they barely ever wear them is part of the lore of why it's great.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Roger Staubach, like in the '60s and stuff. So I mean, there is an iconic uniform combo to it. But I don't know. As a kid, maybe I just hated the Cowboys growing up, so maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I didn't like them.
I have no opinion because I haven't really seen them. I generally don't care, and I'm one of the few past ones who does not cheer on the Cowboys. And I like to point out to people that Arizona is technically closer.
I mean, you're old enough to remember when Kansas City was in Houston, so I figure that you would at least know a little bit something about Texas football.
Dallas,
I remember. I do remember the Oilers.
Because he's old. Remember, he's old.
Yeah,
I remember the Oilers, but that's as far as I go. I don't know what you're talking about. The Chiefs were in.
Yeah, look it up. It's a thing.
The Dallas Texans. The Chiefs used to be the Dallas Texans.
Oh,
I'm just a nerd about football. So
no.
And then the Cowboys was like, we're not going to let there be 2 teams in Dallas. You have to leave.
No, I mean, I've been to Lambeau Field, but that's pretty much it. And I guess I'm a Packer fan by default because everyone around me is a Packer fan, and I've worshipped at Lambeau, and I've worn my green. I have my cap. Next time I'll try to wear my Green Bay Packer cap if it makes you all happy.
Well, one of these days when I'm not paying $820 for a car bill, maybe I'll fly out to Los Angeles and check out their new stadium. So until that day happens, I'm just going to be here watching games on television for free.
Yep.
So until then, we're done BSing. We will see you guys hopefully tomorrow night, where we're going to talk about a whole bunch of random things, or we'll see you next Monday night. Good night. Goodbye. See you later. Go home. It's over. Bye.